everyone, and welcome to Snack Size Science with EarthEcho.
Hi guys, welcome to Snack Size Science today.
I'm Baby Rose, and this is my mom, Miss Stacy, and she is the Senior Director of Programs at EarthEcho.
Yes, I am the Senior Director of Programs at EarthEcho, and we also have one more person helping us today for Snack Size Science. So if you, so we have an awesome program manager, Miss Jacqueline, who's working the tech side of things today, helping us come live to you guys. So we want to thank Miss Jacqueline for being here. We want to thank everybody out there for tuning in with us today for Happy Earth Day, Snack Size Science, right? Earth Day. So it's one of our very favorite holidays today. So you guys out there that are watching, if you haven't already done it, please go ahead and subscribe. Smash, as Viv likes to tell me, smash the subscribe button, she says. And that way, you know, anytime we're going to go live with Snack Size Science or any of our other virtual events during this time when a lot of us are home and getting our classwork done remotely, then we'll let you know through our YouTube channel.
And as you know, today is Earth Day.
Earth Day.
And what better way to celebrate than making our very own paper?
So, yep, we're going to make paper note cards. So we're going to work on these today. And we're going to show you how to do it.
But before we start, Mom.
Yes?
What do scientists use to freshen their breath?
I don't know. What do scientists use to freshen their breath? Experiments. Of course, experiments. So, great joke, Baby Rose. So that starts us off on the right note. And hopefully as people are joining, they'll be able to kind of catch up with us. But we're making our own recycled paper today. And it's seed paper, too. So it's plantable paper. And it's one of our favorite activities to do. Baby Rose and I have done this a couple of times.
It's very fun.
Right, well, we've been on quarantine, and it's a great activity to do on Earth Day. Generally on Earth Day, we're outside. We tend to do things outside. We've planted trees, we've done beach sweeps, we've planted gardens, we've done all kinds of things in Earth Days past. But this year, we tried to think of something that we could do without leaving home, since we're all trying to keep our safe distance and stay indoors and keep everybody safe during this time when things are a little bit different.
Sometimes. Some places the beaches are closed.
Yeah, some places like where we are, the beaches are closed. So this is a great activity. And it's a great way for us to celebrate Earth Day. And just really quickly before we get started, I wanted to ask viewers, do you know why Earth Day is important?
Because...
No? I mean, it's a fun day to celebrate, but do you know why we got our first Earth Day? It's the 50th anniversary of Earth Day this year.
Really?
Yep.
Oh.
This is our 50th Earth Day.
I had no idea.
So yeah, so it's a great, it's a really cool time to celebrate and to think about kind of why we have Earth Day. And the reason we have Earth Day is that 50 years ago, probably even more than 50 years ago, the United States specifically didn't look like it does right now. Our water wasn't as clean. A lot of places, the rivers were so polluted that you couldn't even swim in them, you couldn't fish in them. There were even rivers that would catch on fire. They were so polluted they would catch on fire. In a lot of big cities, there was something called acid rain, where there was so much, well, it was hot, but there was so many toxins and pollutants in the air that sometimes when there would be a lot of moisture, when the moisture, which was rain, would fall out, that moisture would have a pH that would cause like stains on the walls. It would eat the paint off the walls, and it would make wildlife and fish and different things like that not be able to live.
I've seen an old house that happened. After a hurricane.
Possibly, yes.
Possibly after like a hurricane with like acid rain.
Well, probably wasn't a hurricane with acid rain, but back then, over 50 years ago, things were very different than they are right now. And people just kind of thought it was the normal thing. So there were some other people that started to look around and go, you know what, this doesn't have to be this way. And so you had a lot of people that were coming up with great ideas, and they were starting to kind of talk to other people. And then there was one person in particular, and I really like to share about this person. So this is one of my very favorite books. And this was written not quite 10 years, but 8 years before.
Rachel.
Yes, it's a book by Rachel Carson called Silent Spring. And this book really got people talking.
I've heard about that book.
Yeah, great book to read. And this book got people talking about how things could be different, and how we didn't have to have polluted waterways and polluted air, and how we could take better care of the land in which we lived on. So we had some Congress folks who decided that, you know, this was something that they wanted to act on. And so they started kind of a movement, and then on colleges and universities across the US, there became these teach-ins. And these teach-ins were the first Earth Day, where people started talking about, hey, we don't have to have polluted water. We don't have to have polluted air. We can do better. And then by the end of that first year, after the first Earth Day, do you know what happened?
Charleston wasn't so polluted.
Right. Things started going in the right direction, but they created the EPA. Do you know what the EPA is?
Earth Pollution Association?
That's a good guess. It's the Environmental Protection Agency. And
Oh.
so then we had a government group that could help us make things better. So
That was close.
50th anniversary of Earth Day, big deal. So I'm really glad that we're together and we're doing something to recycle and to plant native plants. And, you know, we've got a great project to do, and hope all of you can do this with us. So, you want to get started?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so what are we going to need?
So first, we will definitely need some paper shreds.
Yeah. So first thing we're going to need are these. So these are some paper shreds. This is just our junk mail, guys. So we just run it through a shredder. It's just the stuff that we can't just throw out and recycle. And in where we are, you can't recycle paper shreds. So if you shred it up because it's like a document that has your social security number on it or something like that, you can't recycle this. So we have to find other ways to use it. So we're going to start with this. And then what do we need? We need a lot of water. So we're going to fill this baking dish up with water right now. But what we did first, what did we do yesterday?
So first, we
put all of those paper shreds into some water. And you can see right here, it's kind of gooey. And so when you soak the paper, it gets really soft.
Very pulpy.
Yeah, and it starts to get pulpy, right? And you can even take your fingers and you can just break it up. You can break it up like that. And then, so Viv, what did we do? Instead of just breaking it up with our fingers, what did we do?
We put it in a blender cup, and then we put it.
I'll turn it over, you can see. So it's got a little spinner right there, but this is our blender. And so we put it in, are we gonna do this? Okay, so we put it in our blender. Here we go, we'll look right there. So we'll put it in our blender, and we're not gonna spin it right now, but it spins it around, and then we go from this to this, okay? So all we've used so far are some containers, some old paper scraps, and some water, okay? That's all we've used, but I was about to say, but this was not pink. So we put a little bit of food coloring. Why did we put some food coloring in, Viv?
I like to add a little.
Viv likes a little pop to her note card. So we added that, and so now we've got this stuff, which it looks almost like a cloud. It looks like a pink cloud in a jar. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we've got our pink cloud in a jar, and we've got this bath of water. And so all we've used so far is our blender. We've mixed up some paper shreds that we have right here. And we've added a little bit of food coloring and added some water. So this is where you have to get a little creative, though, because one of the things that we like to do with this is we like to make the paper kind of in the flat sheet. So if you just laid this out kind of and just spread it around, it would be really wet and it would eventually dry, but it would be kind of
wrinkly.
It would be kind of wrinkly. It would be kind of a wad. So it wouldn't be the way we would want it to be, and it would be a little bit harder to put the seeds in it. So we got creative. Well, we'll get to that in just a sec. So what we did is we took a picture frame, okay, and you can do any number of things in our instructions that we have on our website for this. We say you can use an embroidery hoop and some screen. I've seen people use like pantyhose or stockings, and they just like stretch them over. Yeah, they can stretch them over like a wire frame, like maybe a coat hanger. That's different than what we did. But what we did is we had an old picture frame that we weren't using, and this is one of those picture frames that I don't know if you guys have seen them before, but but you usually have them and they sit like this, and they have two pictures in them, and they can close like that. Yeah, so we took this one apart though. So when we took this one apart, that you can kind of see, we just took all the parts out of it, but we have two equal sized wood frames. And then we had a window that the screen had come out of, and we took that screen and we just cut up a couple of pieces of that screen so that they would be about the same size as that frame that we had. So this is what we're going to use as the screening for our paper, but you guys may have a different setup. You may use, like I said, the embroidery hoop, or you may use the pantyhose option. But all you really have to have is a frame like this, some sort of frame, and some sort of screen. And you need to be able to let the water seep through the paper. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make a sheet. Okay, so by making a sheet, you want to do it in the water. So we got all this water right here, but to be able to make that flat sheet that you want, you're going to want to do it in the water, right, Baby Rose? Mm-hmm. Okay, so do you want to go ahead and set us up? So Viv is going to make a little sandwich here, and I'm going to help her. So we've got the frame, then we've got the screen,
and then we've got
another piece of frame, right? Mm-hmm. And you want to keep it. You want me to pull it toward us? Okay. And you want to keep it under the water because you want to have water on the top of that screen right there so that people can, so that the paper can move around. So from there, Bibi Rose is going to go ahead and pour some of the pulp right in there.
And it might splash.
Yeah, it gets a little sloppy, but that's what makes it fun. I think we told you on, that's good. I think we told you on another Snack Size Science, one of the things that we like to do is put one of these little puppy pee-pee pads down whenever we're doing something that's really wet. Just one of those pro tips for doing science at your house.
And then we're gonna add the seeds.
So go in all the little nooks and crannies and try and make sure that you've got your paper pulp all kind of even throughout your frame that you've created. And your frame could be a triangle, your frame could be a circle, or you could be a rectangle like this. Now Viv's gonna spread some, we've got some wildflower seeds. So we like wildflower seeds because that way, no matter where this paper lands later, it's gonna be, we've got native wildflower seeds. So we've ordered some, they're specific to the Southeast where we are. And so that way, no matter where this paper lands, we know that we've got native plants. That's good, that's good. And you wanna go ahead and mush it in? All right. And that way we know wherever this lands, we've got native plants that can grow. You can also do this with, like, if you've got pets, you could do like catnip, like cat grass, or something like that. And you can just push those seeds down into the paper if you wanted to maybe send something to somebody about their pet or something like that, if you want to make a note card about that. So
and now we're gonna put another piece of screen.
Well, we're gonna pull it up first, right?
Right.
So now you want to slowly, as slow as you can stand it, slowly pull this up,
and
because
some
it's
of
gonna,
the color is gonna seep out.
yeah, so some of the color will seep out. It's gonna pop a little bit when the surface tension of the water lets go. It'll pop just a bit like that.
And then you'll see that some of the pink has come out.
Yeah, some of the color comes out, and that's just food coloring. So we're gonna take this top piece of our frame off. And what are you doing now,
Sometimes
Bill?
it sinks in on itself a little.
Well, that's because of our frame. Yeah, so I've got my hand kind of making sure that it doesn't sink. Hold on, and we'll flip it, okay? So now I'll put my hand right here, and what we're gonna do is flip it over and take the other frame off. So now we've just got a little paper sandwich. And what are you doing, Viv?
Mushing the water out.
And you want to mush as much water as you can out, keeping it flat. This is Viv's favorite part.
Well,
the mushing?
not really. It's
Not really?
The blending.
It's the blending. The blending is the favorite part. Okay.
Oh, now it looks purple.
Yeah, it starts to look purple because the original pulp that we had all that ink in the paper. And so since it had all that ink in the paper, that bluish color mixed with our pinkish color, and we got
Purple.
purple. All right, so what's next?
Purple.
Viv? Why don't you help us? What's next?
Then, so, Mom, you should. So next we need to put the paper pulp stuff.
Yep.
In
The pulp sandwich.
in between a towel or maybe 2 sheets of felt.
Okay. So I'm gonna sit this right here, and maybe we'll
And then
move this. How about if we move this back a little bit?
And then you'll
Hold
probably.
on 1 second. Let's move this back so people can see. We'll put it over here, okay? And I'm gonna move this over here too. Now we'll go right there. You want to put that on the top? Okay, you go ahead.
And then you want to put another towel or a few felt squares on top.
Yep. I'm gonna
And
switch back so
then
you can do
then you can either roll it with your hand or a round object, or roll it with a rolling pin if you have
And what are we trying? We're trying to squeeze the water out, right? So
one.
it's okay. We can do this. We got a lot going on. So squeeze the water out as much as you can. All right. Gonna move that. And then I'm gonna pull this felt off for you.
Okay. And next, you want to try and find a loose end, and
Because it can stick, can't it, Vivi Grace?
and then pull up one of your pieces of screen, and then flip it onto another piece of felt,
You can put it on that side of this felt where it's dry.
and try and peel off the other side.
And
then you let it dry overnight.
so if
And
you
then this is what it looks like after it's dried overnight.
yep.
And it looks really cool.
So right now it'll take 24 hours or so for this to dry.
24, maybe 36.
Yeah, it may take a little bit longer depending upon how much you've squeezed out of it and how much water is still in it, and how much if it's raining, if there's a lot of humidity in the air where you are, like we're in a place where it's pretty humid all the time, then it's usually humid. So it may take more than a day to dry, but it won't take more usually than about 2 days to dry. And then you end up like Vivi Ray said. Do you want to get?
And then you end up like this.
Yep. So we've got a piece of paper here, and you can see it dries a little bit crinkled. Not too bad, but what we like to do is to cut them into shapes. So you can cut it into shapes, and Viv has done that right here.
Like I have cut them into.
We want to hold them down here.
Hearts.
Let's see. So we got some big hearts right here. You guys can see.
Maybe and a few small hearts right here, and they say Happy Earth Day and just plain Earth.
Right. So these are our Earth Day hearts. Because we're going to give these out to some friends in our neighborhood to celebrate Earth Day. But you can put whatever you want to on them. So we've started with the Earth Day hearts, but we could do any kind of note card. We cut these into hearts, but you can press your paper like this. This paper can be pressed in between 2 books, and then you'll get something that looks more like kind of a regular note card. So that is
like as flat, mostly close to this piece of screen.
Yeah, close to as flat as the screen. So I want to check and see, do we have anybody out there who has any questions, or is anybody out there doing this at home and want to tell us a little bit about what they've got going on?
Yes, so we do have a question coming from our friend Piper, and she would like to know, how much water did you add to the shredded paper when you put it in the blender?
So you can measure that, I'm sure. We don't. So what we typically do is we put water in until the paper is completely covered. So there should be water sitting on top of the paper. But we don't usually measure it because it just depends on how much paper you use. And, you know, we have friends who use a lot of different kinds of paper. So we've got some friends who even use like paper towels or different kinds of paper like that. We've got friends who don't have a shredder. And so instead of having the shredded paper, they just take their scissors and cut up paper.
Cut up like strips.
Yep. So, but the key is to put in enough water that it covers all of the paper, but you really can't put in too much water, okay? Because it'll all seep out. So once you go ahead and blend it, if you can blend it or mush it up with your hands, when you put it on that screen and start mushing it down, the water that you don't need will come out.
Great advice. Piper says that this is a great idea for Mother's Day, which I think is lovely. And I had a question. I was looking at the ones that Vivi and you made that said Happy Earth Day. What did you use to write on the seed paper? Is there a specific thing you need to use?
Just regular like Crayola markers.
Right. We use Crayola because those are non-toxic. I wouldn't use something like a Sharpie. This is going to we're going to advertise today. So we wouldn't use something like a Sharpie, just simply because if you kind of saturate one of the seeds or something with a Sharpie, it might not grow. It may. Seeds are pretty tough, but we do use non-toxic. Thanks, Jacqueline, for bringing that up. We do use non-toxic markers to write our messages on there.
Sure. And Casey wanted to know, is there, how much food coloring do you use? Is there a problem if you use too much? What have you guys found with that?
Mom uses about 6 drops.
So we use several drops. It really depends on the paper more than anything else. A lot of your food coloring is going to come out because food coloring is water soluble and there's only so much that's going to take to the paper. And that's the reason that you can see this kind of turns, if you look, it turns kind of a light purple.
Like more of a lavender?
Yeah, instead of like a deep color. And if you saw when we did this part and we pulled it out, you can see here a lot of the food coloring.
A lot of the water is now
came out of the paper pulp when we did that. So one thing I will also point out that we didn't talk a ton about is when you blend it, don't over blend it. You want it to have a consistency, and I'm gonna pour some of this just in my hand. You want it to be fluffy and look a little chunky, and that helps it when you go. Oh, Miss Jacqueline helped us with the camera.
It's a good stress reliever.
It's a good stress reliever. But you want it to be nice and fluffy like that instead of super, super homogeneous, which means really, really well blended. Because that makes it a lot easier to pull it off of the screen when you put it on the screen. So if you blend it too much, the fibers can get in between the pieces of the screen and make it a little bit harder to pull it off. So that's another quick tip for everybody. Another really cool thing, we don't have any, hold on one second, John, another really cool thing, we don't have any examples of it right now, but if you don't mix it up too much, you can even see some like little letters and stuff in it. So when you go to roll it out, it's kind of cool because you can see little letters and different things like that embedded in the paper. But we made all of these so that they were blended to where you probably can see that.
Well, that leads us to our next question, Ms. Stacy, and that is, can you use any kind of paper? What about, scrap construction paper, or should you stick to kind of the junk paper? So
you can use any kind of paper to some extent. Coated papers are not going to work well. So if like sometimes you get things in the mail that are shiny and slick. Sometimes that coating is plastic, so I wouldn't want to use something like that. A lot of what we use, like I said, it's like an old bill or something like that we had to shred up. But one of the easiest things to use, we don't want to do it right now because it's pretty wasteful, but one of the easiest things to use is toilet paper and paper towels. Those two things I've seen a lot of people work with, and they shred up like that. But it kind of defeats the purpose of an Earth Day project when you use those. But construction paper works to some extent too, but you may see some weird colors. Another thing that I will point out is we use seeds today because that's specifically what we wanted to do. But we've also put like little flowers in our paper.
And they turned out so cute.
Yeah, they look really
They
cute.
were adorable.
And you can also use like cotton thread or some like embroidery floss if you cut little bits of that and put it in there for a color pop. I know that people sometimes use confetti and things like that, which I think is fine as long as you use confetti that's made from natural things like leaves or flower petals or different stuff like that. We wouldn't want to embed plastic into our compostable seed cards. So.
And Patricia would like to know, why did you put the frames into the water tray with the screen?
Do you know, that's a great question, and trial and error has taught us a lot from that. Do you know why we put it in?
Because
What happens when we pull this tray up, and I know it's hard for you guys to see, we could even do it again, but when you pull the tray up, the suction from packs all of those paper fibers together. So if you just try to pour it and then move that stuff around, it doesn't want to move around very well. So if we leave it in the water and move the paper fibers around to fill our space, then when we pick it up, they all adhere together in the right kind of shape. And you don't have big mountains of pulp here and not much pulp there, and it gets really wavy like that.
That makes sense. That's a good tip. Vivi, I have a question for you. What is the biggest piece of paper you have made?
Oh, these right.
probably this one.
Yeah. So you want to hold it there? Yeah. So we don't make them very big, probably because of our frame. So the frame and since you need a big water bath, that's kind of the hard part, is to find if we had a bigger frame, we'd probably make bigger paper, but we have to have a bigger water bath to put it in. So as big as her face, right? There you go. So we have run just about out of time, guys. So I wanted to say thanks to everybody that did this with us. If you have any additional questions, hit us up on either our social media channels. You can hit us up on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram.
Or you can just plain email them.
You can email us, very good, at education@earthecho.org. So education@earthecho.org. So if you get in touch with us, please send us pictures. If you made paper, we want to see. So we'd love to see. Yeah, so we'd love to see what you made. We'd love to see you doing this with us. We would love to see what's going on, and be sure to do what?
Smash that subscribe button.
Smash that subscribe button so you know what we're doing in the future. This Friday, we've got another event coming up. It's going to be Urban Gardening with Philippe and Ashlyn Cousteau.
And Vivian, her daughter.
And little Vivian. We're very excited about that Snack Size Science on Friday at noon. We also have 2 Snack Size Science next week, so be sure to subscribe so you can be on the list to do this with us in the next couple of weeks. We hope everybody out there enjoys their Earth Day. Do something kind for planet Earth today, and be sure to take care of one another. Thanks so much, everybody.